Welcome to my American History Notes, where I discuss conclusions I've drawn from studying American history. Conclusions which are evolving, they're changing. I review them, and so I may come back and revisit things from time to time. But these are just some very surface things. I hope you'll have your own conclusions from studying American history, and that you'll really be diligent and look and dig. Um, and we're gonna begin today with the presidency, the era of the presidency of Lyndon Baines Johnson. Now, the 36th president of the United States was Lyndon Baines Johnson, Kennedy's vice president, and the consummate professional politician. Less than 2 hours after Kennedy's assassination, which traumatized the entire nation, Johnson was sworn in on the presidential plane by federal judge Sarah T. Hughes, the first woman to ever swear in a president. When the plane touched down in Washington with his wife and First Lady Claudia Lady Bird Johnson by his side, he promised to simply do his best. He pushed forward many of Kennedy's programs and coined some new phrases of his own, moving from Kennedy's New Frontier to his own Great Society program, which included a war on poverty. Obviously, media catchphrases were going to be the norm for presidents now. Johnson successfully pushed through the most important legislation in the history of the country from a social perspective, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Ostensibly to right wrongs done to Black people throughout our history, this law has resulted in special protection for people who engage in homosexual behavior as a lifestyle or who believe that they're born that way. It doesn't matter, it's a legal protection. Discrimination against protected groups under this legislation can result in fines and confiscation of property. It changed the entire fabric of our society and indirectly resulted in the destruction of the Black community, white flight from the cities, and urban decay, while at the same time, that was on one hand negative, at the same time, it afforded the country with such luminaries as famed Black neurosurgeon Dr. Ben Carson and others who have been able to achieve great things, a situation which might not have been permitted to occur before this action. And I'll discuss that maybe more in special topics. But every good thing or every effort that mankind makes, there's always going to be something that's unforeseen, maybe negative, and there's going to be benefits as well. So I applaud the Civil Rights Act basically of 64 because it was a beginning of straightening a lot of crooked things out in this country, but just a beginning. A truly great Black leader in this country, unaffiliated with communism and untainted by public sexual scandal, S.B. Fuller, who had attained his success and wealth in spite of racism, was against this legislation. The first Black member of the National Association of Manufacturers, he insisted that the only way that Blacks could succeed in America was by hard work and education. He became an ardent enemy of the Black leaders who expected the federal government to simply bankroll Black success. To him, this was an empty expectation. And truthfully, you can't depend on the federal government to lift you up. They can, they can knock down a wall, but man, when they're involved, it gets really messy, and you always wind up being disappointed. Johnson was opposed by conservative Republican Barry Goldwater in the 1964 election. I saw Goldwater speak in Salisbury, Maryland, on the lawn of the old Civic Center during this campaign. He had voted against the Civil Rights Act and, along with others, believed it to be a dangerous attack on our Constitution. Johnson defeated him in his first presidential election. We're going to discuss a little about Vietnam and the conflict in America that went on with that next. I hope that you'll study American history and look at these events I'm talking about and come to your own conclusions. I'm not expecting you to agree with me. I have no problem with people disagreeing with me. You might even be offended by something I say, which is okay with me as long as you're studying and you have studied the facts and you come up with your own opinion. If it's the exact opposite of mine, that's great, as long as you have an opinion that you formed from your own study. These are interesting times, interesting topics. I hope you'll be conversant in them. Thank you.